Yo, it's good. It's Skano from the gutter. So apparently Somalians are next on the list. Trump has issued actually he has moved to take away their protected status. And from what I understand, Somalians have and this is just going by, the news feeds that I have available. Obviously, I don't live in Minnesota, but from what I understand, Somalians they deep. They deep down there. And the locals are saying that they're being overrun by Somalians. Now I don't know how much of this is, you know, legitimate concerns over safety and because from what it's being said that this congresswoman, Ilhan Omar, she's from Somalia, migrated here some years back, and in that course of time, man, they have, you know, built up a large population of Somalians in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't, but she's being accused of misappropriating, you know, state funds to fund, these extremist groups back in Somalia. So basically, what's being said is that, you know, her and her administration, you know, they are basically stealing, the state's funds, fraud, all type of scamming, and funneling this money back to Somalia. And also, they're saying that they are funding these Islamic terrorist groups. Now, like I said, a lot of this type of rhetoric get thrown around because this, make no mistakes, what's going on. You know, this whole remigration process that's going on, they calling it remigration, because deportation, I guess, is too similar to what the Nazis, in Germany labeled it when they don't want to be associated with at least most of, the American government. You got some Republicans that are proudly aligning themselves with Nazism. And this remigration, this process kind of reminds me of, what was going on in Nazi Germany when they targeted, the Jews, and they had to be rounded up. So everybody that's not white American right now is on the menu. Now, obviously, FBAs, they can't get us up out of here. Although I do get the feeling that a majority of, MAGA, and even just the Republicans in general, just given the tone of the rhetoric that come out of, our government, that they would, if they could find a way, they would get us up out of here too. But we not going. But anybody that's not white American or white in general, because he's given refuge to these, Europeans, white South Africans. They are, they've got the, open door. They can, come on over. But they've halted the process. No other ethnicities or nationalities are, right now they're, as far as migrating to America. And it's a purge, basically, is what's going on. They are rounding up anyone that is not white American, and FBA, obviously. So now it's the Somalians. But I can't say that they're being wrongfully targeted at this point because from what I understand, these Somalians are, they heavy in the, like I said, fraud, scamming. And now you have this congresswoman, talking all crazy. She sounds basically anti-American, and if you go by what she's saying, she hate America, so why the hell y'all here? Now, if you've been able to, progress up the chain from a common citizen to Congress, you would think you would have some appreciation for America. And I know America ain't shit if we really being real, the racism, but and the greed, the corruption, woo woo. But you probably need to pipe down with all that anti-American rhetoric right now. I mean, have you not checked the temperature around here? Kind of lay low. Like I said, you've assimilated. Found your place in Congress. Maybe you should tone it down. But no, she's pretty anti-American, and she's not shy about expressing that. You better be careful. They done shipped your ass back to Somalia. So from like I said, he's wiped away their protected status. They about to start rounding these Somalians up. And the state of Minnesota, man, they are cheering for this. Now, like I said, man, it's one thing as, immigrants to come over here, assimilate as far as the workforce, contributing, pulling your weight. But you have a lot of these Somalians that are coming over here and just basically, just living off the, the sweat and the hard labor of American citizens. And that includes FBAs. It's not just the white folks in Minnesota that want them up out of there. Although largely, from what I gather, but, they coming over, receiving all type of benefits, and just basically laying on that, resting on their laurels, and that ain't it right now, especially with this economic climate. And like I said, the tension, the racial tension that's going on right now, because when white America start feeling it in their pocket, man, they get to turning on everybody, and including other white Americans. So Somalians, y'all ain't got shit coming, especially if y'all committing fraud. And there is an investigation going on right now into this situation as far as, like I said, man, billions of dollars over the years that they have scammed the state of Minnesota out of. And it is what it is. So, yeah, they sweeping through there, man. From what I understand, ICE about to be down there putting belt to ass. These Somalians, they all in an uproar. They're afraid, outraged or, whatever. And although I have not heard a lot about them seeking, as far as there's some people saying that, they expecting FBAs to stand on their behalf. And I know y'all know better than that. Maybe y'all so insulated that y'all have not, this ain't got nothing to do with FBAs, So, like I said, we just chilling right now. We got a lot of other things going on. We fighting for, we still, like I said, they trying to strike down equal voter rights. You got this gerrymandering and shit going on. They trying to, corner as far as the electoral process. You squeeze black folks out of the whole, electoral process. We got a lot more going on. We can't be worried about no Somalians, especially, y'all scamming, and defrauding and shit like that. So, but make no mistakes what's going on, man. They calling it remigration, but this is a purge. They are regardless of the fact that, like I said, this whole deportation, process has been more of a negative on the American workforce, the American economy, than it has benefited. Now, I know people talking about, the benefits that these immigrants are receiving, in particular, the Somalians, and like coming over here and just taking advantage of shit, want it on easy mode. And, I understand that those resources could be more appropriately dispersed. But let's be real, man. This government don't give a shit about the common, like I said, common working class American citizens, whatever your race. So if you think that this is about, the misappropriation of funds and woo-woo, Trump has wasted more money since he's been in office in 8 months than I'm sure that they've scammed out of Minnesota in the last 10 years probably. But this is I think is racially motivated, number one. the scamming, the fraud. Like I said, these Islamic terrorist organizations that they are building a hub. If you believe what's being said, they building a Islamic hub in Minnesota, and you got Minnesotans, on the internet talking about they don't feel safe anymore, and it's becoming a shithole in Minnesota. You know how white America, y'all do kind of exaggerate shit, especially when it come to race. So let them tell it. Minnesota is a terrorist hub. You got Somalians running around, raping, killing, plundering, kidnapping, all type of shit. But this is a purge. It's a racial purge. And like I said, man, as far as illegals, do what y'all gotta do. But this is beyond that. This is targeting, like I said, any racial ethnic group that is not white American. Y'all on the menu. You know what I'm saying? They gonna be putting belt ass from Latinos to Africans, Indians, you name it. So even in Congress and in our government, they gonna start stripping these people of power, because being what America is, they want to redistribute all the power as far as political, economic, and otherwise. They want to redistribute it back to white America. They don't want, for a while, I think, white America kind of was, rolling with it. Like I said, when we hit economic turmoil in this country, default setting, you know what I'm saying? So, but this woman, Ilhan, Omar, I'm going to tell you what, I don't know how you became Congresswoman, but this ain't it, so keep it up, and your ass gonna be, you gonna be on the next boat too, right back to Somalia, so, but it is what it is, man. Like I said, you can call it remigration, whatever, deportation, whatever you want to call it, but it's a racial purge going on right now, and it is what it is. No ops left, Skano. You already know.